To bring this to an end, let's talk about an alternative way how you could illuminate your scene, and that is using image-based lighting. And image-based lighting, in contrast to using area lights, is just only using one image that is wrapped like a sphere around your scene and then shooting out light into your scene, and the colors of that image will influence the color of that light. If you go to Chrome and you type in HDRI, that for example stands for High Dynamic Range Image. High dynamic range means, in contrast to a JPEG, this is like raw photography or a raw image. So it captures a lot of light information. And then that amount of light then can be used to illuminate your scene. So you see those, for example, are horizontal images, but they represent a 360-degree environment. And then that can be used, simply to illuminate your scene. There are a lot of free sets you can get. For example, this one here is at the luxrender.net. So if you go to here and type in free HDRI images, you find actually a lot of those. This one here, for example, as you can see, simulates kind of like a glossy ground plane and then area lights on top and a fake camera. This one here, for example, has an umbrella. The umbrella is brighter, so it shoots out more light. Everything that's facing the umbrella will be more lit. And then you have those side area lights. They're more like fillers. They're a little bit dim. Here, for example, is another set. You can also have colors. So it doesn't really matter what you put in there. All this can then be used to illuminate your scene. So to see this in action, we can go to Blender, go to the world setting, click New, go to the color, click on the small pull down icon, and then select Environment Texture. And then I have already downloaded few. So for example, I go to the studio with the umbrella, and I do not want to use a JPEG. I want to use the HDR image. Then I can click Open and turn on Render. And there you see now that all the information of that image is being used to actually lit my scene. And it's very nice and soft. So the colors actually can look really nice and natural. The advantage of image-based lighting is it can produce much softer results, but sometimes for a good shot you just also need the correct image, because that is what shoots in the light. And a small trick to, for example, better judge how your scene is illuminated is if you add a small sphere, and then the sphere I make glossy. So I can, if I zoom in, much better see, for example, from where all the light is coming. I can make my backdrop invisible, then of course I see inside the background the color of that texture. And if I'm in perspective mode and rotate my view, there we can see, for example, now how this image is being mapped like a sphere around my environment. And of course the umbrella is shooting in most of the light. And I can play with the settings. I can make this image add only a little bit of light, or more light, or too much light. So like it's completely burned out. And for example, if I don't like the light effect, I can also simply select everything inside my scene and, for example, rotate it. And actually I forgot to select the camera, so I have to do this as well. And there you can see on the chrome ball how that environment changes a little bit. So you see now most of the light is coming from the right side, hitting the front part of my bike. Let's maybe increase this a little bit. And maybe the backdrop is not enough for good color. So if I reduce this, then you see I'm making my bike frame pop out a little bit better. And that's basically how you can use the image-based lighting. You don't have to use it exclusively. You can, for example, set it to something small, and then I'm going to add another mesh light. So if I want to have a little bit more control, because just without the mesh light, it would only look this way, a little bit flat. And with my environment light, I can add a little bit of also color actually to it, because it's not just the color of this mesh light, but all the colors from that environment that are influencing my scene. And maybe let's use a different image. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, maybe let's use this one. So you can just see that it's not black and white. It's actually really the color of that environment that is being used to illuminate your scene. And this one might be good because it has the light mainly coming from one side. So it has a stronger contrast. And there you can see now that the left part of my bike is nicely lit, and then the rest is not as much illuminated because most of the light comes from the left side. Also, the shadow goes away from the object to the right side. And let's say we rotate this one, so maybe I have the light coming from the right side, then it goes the opposite way. But you see, for example, now it would be difficult to use the studio image and make the light coming from the top. For that, then you would really need actually a light image where most of the stuff is coming from the top, for example, like this one. So let's use it. So there you see all the light from the top coming down and casting the shadows right below the object. So to get good render results with this technique, it sometimes comes down to a little bit of practice and playing with the different images. Sometimes the image itself looks nice, but if you then apply to your scene, it can sometimes work or cannot work. And again, as I mentioned, you don't have to use them exclusively. You can use them still in conjunction with other area lights. So let's say I do this again, but in this case, I would like the light actually to be more like a strip, like this. And let's rotate it along the x-axis. And let's move it up. And sometimes also a small tip, if you start coloring a light, it can be very easy to see where your light is and how it influences your scene. So maybe like this. And then we can set this one back to 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. So this way, for example, I put a lot more contrast on this particular part of my bike, while the rest of my scene is illuminated by the HDR image.